progressive push to undermine common sense checks on government spending is never ending, as evidenced recently by the debate over the federal debt limit in Washington, D.C. The latest push is happening in Colorado, as progressives are there once again attempting to undermine the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, or TABOR, which is the gold standard of a state constitutional limit on overspending and overtaxing. Since its adoption by voters as a state constitutional amendment back in 1992, it has helped restrain the growth of government and return billions of dollars to Colorado taxpayers. But an upcoming ballot measure in Colorado, if approved, would gut TABOR in exchange for a small short-term cut to property taxes. Known as Proposition HH, this proposal tempts voters with the allure of property tax cuts when its real purpose is to clearly water down TABOR's tax and spending limits. My friend Ben Murray, Director of Fiscal Policy at the Independence Institute, described the package as a boondoggle of a property tax plan. The attacks on TABOR aren't new. The property tax cut, quote unquote, is the only latest gimmick to attempt to unleash the leviathan of big government on hardworking Coloradans. As the ALEC team explained in National Review on the recent 30th anniversary of TABOR, TABOR has seen no shortage of progressive attacks, which serves as an acknowledgement of the danger it presents to those that would like no constraints on the government's ability to grow. Through all states except Bernie Sanders' Vermont have some sort of a balanced budget requirement in state law or their constitution, most don't have robust protections such as that what TABOR offers. Taxing and spending may not be out of control in Colorado, but it only takes one future generation of policymakers to change that. In Colorado, such a generation of big spenders has been held at bay so far by the resiliency of TABOR. As former Colorado State Representative Patrick Neville put it, TABOR is the only thing keeping us from becoming East California. These attacks on TABOR fly directly in the face of Colorado taxpayers and voters. According to recent polling, TABOR has the support of 78% of Coloradans, including a majority of Republicans and a majority of Democrats. Proposition HH, if approved, would increase what the state is allowed to keep and take away from taxpayers in the form of refunds that they would get from TABOR by 1% each year. While that might not sound like a lot over the next 2 years, these changes will allow the state to keep about $500 million more than it otherwise would have. In 10 years, the state could potentially keep another $2 billion more each year. All that money comes out of TABOR refunds in the pockets of hardworking taxpayers. State legislative staff have estimated that by 2025, TABOR refunds will be reduced by 23%. In the long term, they might be eliminated altogether. Although the bill only authorizes these spending increases for 10 years, legislators that are run by Democrats in Colorado can choose to continue them indefinitely without putting the issue before voters, again, undermining the accountability mechanism of TABOR for future generations. By increasing the cap on how much revenue government can keep and spend, Proposition HH strikes at the core of TABOR. Disguising this move as a short-term rate cut for property taxes, it bends transparency TABOR was designed to protect and will continue the centennial state down the path of looking more like big government states like California and New York. TABOR has succeeded in limiting the growth in government spending, keeping taxes low, and returning money to Coloradans, providing transparency around tax increases. Its 30-year track record in limiting the growth of government has been a continual thorn in the side of Colorado progressives and big spending interest groups. But the success of TABOR has also given principled, free market, limited government proponents across the nation an important success story to use in the fight to control one of the biggest threats that we face in every state, and certainly in Washington, D.C., and that is overspending. Imagine for a moment if our officials in Washington, D.C. could harness such a common sense approach to the overspending that is driving our national debt crisis now of nearly $32 trillion, or roughly $250,000 per taxpayer across America. As usual, the 50 laboratories of democracy point us in the right direction for trusted policy solutions that work. For the good of taxpayer protection, let's hope taxpayers survive this attack against TABOR in Colorado. For more information on TABOR and effective state spending limits, visit the ALEC Fiscal Rules Project at fiscalrules.org. For American Radio Journal, I'm Jonathan Williams. Thanks for listening.